Evening councillors, evening officers. Right, so first of all, can we all just check that our phones are silenced and that any IT that wants to speak can be muted. Please note that this meeting may be recorded and data collected during the recording of the meeting, and it will be retained in accordance with the Council's data protection retention policy, and recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. Just members, please, can you keep, if you're remotely dialed in, please can you keep your camera and microphone off unless you wish to speak, as this can affect the IT quality. If you are using an SBC or KCC laptop and you're participating virtually, you can join using the website or on a mobile tablet device, but we may not be able to identify you. We've only got a couple of people online, and one of them is the officer present here. Okay. Right, evening everyone. Welcome to this evening's Economy and Property meeting, and including any visiting members, in which we have a member who's normally on committee but is participating remotely tonight. So I advise you of the officers present here tonight. We have Head of Place, Joanne Johnson, the Capital Programme Manager, Inga Lorraine, and this is her first meeting, so I'd like to welcome her. The Head of Environment and Leisure, Martin Cassell, and Democratic Services, we've got Kelly here. There is no planned fire drill tonight, so if the alarm sounds, those in attendance should leave via the exits indicated and assembled outside where directed. Do not use the lift, and that if anyone requires extra assistance, make themselves known. I don't think there is. No? Good. Okay, apologies for absence. I've got here apologies from Councillor Clark and also Councillor Jays, and Councillor Chapman's participating remotely as he's unwell, but thank you for coming online. Any others? No? We've got one who may be late. Oh, no way. Okay, that's fine. Members, can we approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of July 2024? That's minute numbers 117 to 127 as a correct record. Do you all agree? Agreed. Thank you. That's unanimous. Do we have any declarations of interest anyone wishes to make on the agenda items tonight? No. Okay. So the first item here is item 5. And that is the scheme of delegation, the proposed changes relating to Economy and Property Committee. And I'll ask the officer to introduce the report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, members. So, as the Chair says, this report sets out the rationale for proposed changes to the scheme of delegation in relation to this committee. The scheme of delegation with regard to E&P Committee has not been reviewed since Swale Borough Council switched to the committee system from a cabinet system. It also contains a range of value thresholds which act as triggers for committee consideration, and these, I'm advised, haven't been updated for a number of years prior to the change to committee system. Some colleagues who've been here for longer than I have estimate at least 15 years plus. I'm not sure how true that is, but it's been a while. So what we're looking at tonight is a range of suggestions for the general delegations and the specific threshold values. So Appendix 1 shows the current wording of the Council's adopted constitution in the left column, set against recommended changes in the middle column. Anything that's proposed to be added is shown in red, anything that's proposed to be deleted is struck through, and a rationale for each of the changes is set out in the final column. They fall into 3 broad types of recommended changes. The first is just tidying and re-emphasis. The second is those value thresholds that I mentioned. And then there's some proposed additions where the Constitution is silent and it seems to make sense to fill those gaps. Finally, there's one proposal for a redirected delegation, which is around the head of place can apply for planning permission, because the head of place now oversees planning, taken legal advice on this one to confirm that I cannot apply to myself. So it recommends that delegation is passed on to the Strategic Programme and Assets Manager, Kieran Mansfield, so that it can be enacted. I won't run through all of the proposals in the table. Those that are just tidying and re-emphasis, I'll leave. But I'll flag where we're talking about additions to fill gaps where the Constitution is silent and where I'm making proposals for the values to be changed. So the first filling of a gap is around engaging with businesses and relevant representative organisations to promote and signpost services. Some of these proposals to fill in the gap are probably more significant than others. I do this anyway, but it's nice to have the green light to do that. The next one is around developing and submitting bids for external funding for corporate and service priorities. I don't have a mandate to do that at present. Again, I have done it, but it would be good to have the formal mandate to do that. And this is also recommended for all heads of service. None of us currently have that within our delegations. Moving down, encroachments and adverse possession claims. There's nothing in the Constitution around those. We think it would make sense to add those in. Moving down to 2.8.19.13 is the first proposal for a change in the threshold value, which is around freehold disposal and purchase of land. I'm suggesting the value goes up to £100,000. Adding into the wording something around the obligation to obtain the best consideration for the land, and that if we're not doing that, that would need to come to committee for approval. So under the Local Government Act 1972, we are obliged to get the best value for the land with some possible exemptions. So I thought it just makes sense to add that wording in there, just to be clear. The proposed new value matches the key decision threshold. That's why it's proposed for 100,000. There's another value proposed for increase that is around 2.8.19.17, entering into leases. Currently I can enter into leases where the annual rent is less than £3,000. I need to come to committee for anything above that. £30,000 would feel more appropriate. And then the remainder are gaps where the Constitution is silent, so granting rent concessions in line with the council policy. We have a voluntary and community sector concessions policy, that just gives me the authority to enact that, to administer all aspects of short-term tenancies of Swale House, and that is the final proposed addition. So thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Members, does anyone have any questions? Burning questions? No? Oh, Councillor Tucker.
Yeah, no questions, Chair. Very simple laid out report. It's common sense. I suggest we move to the vote.
Okay. I'll propose that. I've got a seconder. Thank you. Councillor Wise has seconded that. Okay, all members, if you can vote. Those in agreement? That's unanimous. Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to item number 6. That's the contract award for Masters House alterations and refurbishment. This is the Sheerness Revival. And I'll ask the officer on her maiden outing to our committee to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. Good evening, members. The Masters House project is one of 3 projects in the Sheerness Revival Capital Programme, which was awarded Level Up funding in 2023. With a focus on employment, it aims to convert the disused garages into workshop spaces to be utilised by Launch It charity, which supports young people aged 18 to 30 into employment. The conversion follows on from phase 1 fit out and improvements to the main house, which is currently occupied. Officers have been working to progress the project through to design stage, and following completion of stage 4 design and successful planning outcome in September, a straightforward 8-week tender activity was undertaken to procure a contractor to conduct the works. While the project budget is $320,000, officers took the decision to add a ceiling price of $360,000 to allow for quality bid submissions. The decision proved effective as we had 12 bids returned. 3 of those bids were excluded due to coming in above the ceiling price, and the other 9 bids were assessed and evaluated by 3 people. The remaining 9 bids, following evaluation, with a weighing of 60% on price and 40% on quality, contractor B had the highest combined score. While their price was slightly above the budget of 320,000, the quality element of their bid was strongest, and it exceeded the second highest bidder by 5 points. So they proved quite successful in that assessment. They submitted a strong bid with a focus on social values around the economy, the use of the labour and services and goods, local labour and services and goods. They also committed to youth engagement, which we're hoping to use as an opportunity to address the antisocial behaviour elements that have been persisting across the Masters House area. As the highest scoring bid and in line with the standard procurement process, we recommend to committee the appointment of Contractor B to deliver the much needed works at Masters House.
Thank you very much. Any office? Hello. Councillor Braun.
It's the best quality score. It's a competitive price. It's common sense.
Brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Thompson. Oh, Mike. Sorry. Microphone. I'm not calling you Mike.
I was thinking, sorry, here, Councillor took a point. So I'm just looking at that, as he pointed out to me, about ethical supplies and championing use of ethical goods and services.
Yeah.
I wondered if we could put in that they look at using ethical consumer to give them some advice and guidance on supplies and services. It gives them a whole overriding. Basically, they've already done the research, which is quite handy, and they're a not-for-profit organisation, which are quite useful to follow around material supplies. They even go to large business overviews as well, which are quite useful. But
And sorry, could you repeat the name of that?
ethical consumer.
Ethical consumer. Okay. Is that, are you proposing?
Well, I'd quite like to propose it, yeah, and also for other things that pop up. If we think, we're not sure, how do we find an ethical supplier?
Yeah.
They're really good for an overarching view, and they're looking at going more commercial as well, which is quite useful. But they do cover businesses, firms, holidays, pretty much everything, supplies, companies, that sort of thing.
And it's a sort of standard benchmarking, effectively.
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
get. Okay, so you're proposing to add that into...
Well, if possible, yeah. I just think it'd be quite nice to know that someone's spent the time actually analysing independently. Whereas, as we all know, a lot of the time when we go to find things that are ethical, we then find the person that's done the research has actually got a hand in supplying something. So, whereas Ethical Consumer are completely independent, not-for-profit organisation. But it's just for the contractor. If they then think, where do I find ethical supplies? They'll then know. But
Okay. Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Thompson said. I think it's reasonably vague, ensuring ethical supplies. If there's something you can measure it against and people that are already out there doing it, it sounds like which for environmental stuff. I bow to Councillor Thompson's knowledge on that. I think it seems a good idea.
Okay,
I'm
so...
happy to second or whatever.
Yeah, so if I propose, firstly, the motion on the floor so that you can... and if I have a seconder... Councillor Braun.
the whole motion, yeah.
And now, if you want to propose your amendment to include that.
If possible, yeah. And then what we can do is have a quick chat with an officer at the time, and then we can set our parameters on how we judge it through Ethical Consumer. Because obviously there's a top listing of supplies, and then there's a bottom listing. As a council, do we then think, we want to be in the top 90%? And then it gives us an idea of who we're going to then cut out, and it helps us for supplies as well regarding building. So...
Are you concerned about mandating it because they will already have peaked their supplies to...
Do you want to put it on mic?
Oh, right, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I'd be slightly concerned about mandating it just because they've put in their tender price based on their supply chain, but certainly all for recommending it or signposting it or something that strongly encourages them.
Yeah.
But I'd just be hesitant to mandate it in case that then
Falls
delays
away.
something.
Yeah, and it'd also be nice to know if we do in the future do Ethical Consumer, then if they say, here, our supplies are coming from here, we can then very easily judge, an officer can very easily judge by instantly putting it in as to whether it is or not.
So if we just leave it as the committee would like to see this if it could be implemented, and then if we want to make that a more shall we say, stringent measure, then I think that needs to be looked at through the usual procurement measures, correct? Right. Everyone happy with that as a committee?
Sounds
Good.
fair.
Excellent. So if we take that to the vote, the original proposal, so everyone in favour? Great, that's unanimous, so thank you for that. Right, okay, that's that one done. So item 7 on the agenda is the Beach Hut Phase 1 tender. So please note that there is a restricted appendix, that's item 11. And if members wish to discuss the restricted appendix, then we'll go into a confidential session. So if I allow the officer, first of all, to do his introduction, and then at the end of that, if you can let me know if you want to discuss the blue paper item, okay? Thank you. So over to the officer to introduce the Beach Hut Phase 1 tender award, please.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, Jay Jenkins can't be with us tonight, so you have me, and I know it's a strange night to be talking about beach huts given the weather outside, but obviously we need to consider it so that we can put things in place. So this is following the agreement of the beach hut policy earlier this year by the committee, and the committee giving us permission to go out to tender for Phase 1. This paper brings an update and a recommendation for an award of contract. We went out to tender earlier this year, and we got a range of tenders back, but unfortunately they were well over the allocated capital budget. So we re-looked at the so we paused or closed that original tender, re-looked at the specification, and then went back out. I'm pleased to say that the second tender, what we did is we put 2 lots on it. One was for the full project of 26, and the other was a reduced number based around what we thought we might achieve for the existing capital budget. We got a good number of returns back, and when we evaluated them, we were pleased to see that there was improved pricing. However, it was still over budget for the overall project. We therefore went to Policy and Resources Committee in October, where they agreed the additional capital budget required for the whole project, and they did that based upon the information in the exempt appendix in front of you tonight, which sets out the business case stroke financials and the elements that have changed since the original budget allocation. So therefore we ask this committee to consider the recommendation, which is to award to Company B for completion of Lot 1, which is the whole project, at a sum of £202,000. So I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, members, first off, do you think you're going to need to discuss the blue paper appendix? Has anyone got any burning questions? No? Okay, that's fine. Right, so we won't need to go into private session for that. Any questions on the report that's presented before you? Does anyone wish to discuss it? No? Shall we move straight to the vote then? If I propose it, have we got a seconder? Councillor Stephen, thank you. Right, all those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. Right. Cool. This is going to be record speed, maybe. Maybe not. I might eat my words later. Let's have a look. Okay, item 8 on the agenda, please. It's procurement of the construction contractor for Beachfields. Again, there is a blue paper item, and if you wish to discuss this, then first of all, I'll ask the officer, as we did before, to introduce the report. If you've got a burning desire to discuss the blue paper, then we'll go into private session. If not, we will continue with questions. So over to the officer for the procurement of the construction contractor for Beachfields.
Thank you, Councillor. The Beachfield project is the largest project within the Assurance Revival Programme, and it seeks to deliver a comprehensive reconfiguration and refurbishment of the extension of the existing dry-side leisure facility at Sheppey Healthy Living Centre. It would hopefully deliver improved healthy living centre to deliver enhanced and expanded health and wellbeing offer and the public realm and placemaking interventions. In March 2023, committee identified and agreed to utilise the UK Leisure Framework to procure a contractor to deliver the project, and an open tender activity was conducted. ETEC Group was identified as a suitable contractor. ETEC has experience of multiple public leisure and health projects, working with local authorities and the NHS to deliver successful projects. They're in a position to move at pace, and that makes them suitable in terms of the Beachville project. With that experience comes a strong commitment to social value, and this includes putting together a robust construction programme and focused cost savings to deliver the project on time and within budget. Management of the Adventure Golf delivery will be included in their cost figures and therefore provides a single point contract for the council. The additional benefits, such as their strong commitment to social value, exploring the use of local contractors, providing cost-free logistical support for the temporary relocation of the Beachville partners, and to provide support in the engagement of primary and secondary school students through a series of workshops and design and construction and career advice, and support with public engagement activities. Officers have undertaken appropriate due diligence and as satisfied committee chair and the director of resources. And on that basis, our proposal is that committee approves the appointment of ETEC as contractor to deliver the Beachville project to construction stage, subject to final contract value being within the available budget and to financial due diligence being undertaken. Thank you.
Okay, members, does anyone have a burning desire to discuss the blue paper? It's the available budget. Okay, any others? No? Okay. Right, let's go to questions on the report before you. Got a question, Councillor Thompson.
Keep forgetting this. On the identification of it, so we've got environment and climate ecology emergency side. Have we set any levels for that? In other words, the level of construction of the build within the contract. In other words, have we gone passive house, or what might have we have put as a level?
So on this is effectively mainly a retrofit. So we're not. This won't be a whole ground up approach on this. And obviously, Adventure Golf is going to be an outdoor facility. So as far, I mean, the officer can come in there if you want to answer that. Give a more technical response.
The Adventure Golf is an outdoor activity, and it doesn't form part of the extension of the building itself. It's just a reconfiguration of the internal building and an expansion to allow for more accessible GP provision, leisure offers, and supporting Sheppey Matters, who's the charity base there.
Right, okay. Thanks.
Anyone else? I'd like to commend actually the officers here, because there's been an awful lot of legwork, and for us to come in within the scope of the envelope that we have has been extremely tricky, especially at the moment with construction costs, etc., and to identify a suitable party. So I'd like to say thank you to all the officers that have been involved with that. So, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to add to Councillor Thompson's question. Although it is retrofit, a number of the elements within the specification and the construction design are thinking towards those type of principles, so BREEAM principles and air source heat pumps, etc. So we are looking for the build to improve where we are currently on the building, and obviously looking to ideally reduce our costs along the way as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Right. I'll propose the recommendation as set out in the agenda. Oh, sorry, Councillor Braun. Oh, okay. So I'll propose the recommendation as set out in the paper. Councillor Braun would like to second. Noted. Right. Okay. Let's move straight to the vote. All those in favour? Great, that's unanimous, thank you. And that is a great milestone for taking that project forward. So thank you so much. Item 9 is the forward decisions plan. Let's just get that up. Right, that is page 33 if you have the printed agenda. Do any members have any questions on the forward decisions plan? Anyone want to ask anything? Raise anything now? Councillor Tucker? No, neither can I.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, with the Masters House that we've just agreed,
Yep.
Along with the old library coming up again on the next meeting, and hopefully someone's going to buy the water tower, which is the thorn in this council side of thing, and actually do something constructive with that. That should tidy all that area up and actually make it a nice facility within Sheerness, and should stop all the antisocial behaviour and everything else. So, in regards to the old library, is there any? Will it be presented at the next? Because I know we were looking at, I think, about 2 meetings ago, was it? My little brain.
Yeah, so at the moment it's proposed that we'll have a next steps at the January meeting. Is that correct? Yes. And yes, I hear what you say on certain assets being a thorn in our side. I think everyone would agree that. Right, okay. Anything else on the forward decisions plan? Oh, yes. I've just been gently reminded. We have another year's allocation of UK SPF, so there will be a report coming forward from the officers, and that will also be at the January meeting. Do you think January? Maybe?
Awaiting guidance of how it can be spent.
Okay, so we're waiting guidance as to how it can be spent. So it depends how quickly that's forthcoming. So it may be January, it could well be March. Okay, good. All happy with that? Lovely. And, well, we've done the exclusion of public. Right, I think we are finished, members. And I will close this meeting at 19:26. So I'd just like to thank you all and hope you have a lovely Christmas. Thank you.